Oh, I've got a
We're
ton of
recording now.
All right. Straighten
Okay.
up.
Can you see me okay? Because I feel like a hat was the wrong thing to do, but
Put your hat backwards, like you're in college. There you go. Very hip.
it's not flat enough. I need a Monster Energy drink too.
I think that's fine.
What if I?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, real accent. That's rough. Oh, how do?
Very youthful look.
Oh, I look like that old man from The Simpsons, Hans Molman.
You know, I really didn't watch The Simpsons that much. I'm sorry.
Well, God damn it.
No.
All right, I'm gonna push go live now. Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
You ready?
All right.
I can't monitor the recording because otherwise it'll make me nervous.
Okay. What do you mean, like on the live?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll check the live chat.
You're gonna have to be asking me a lot of questions because I'll just be sitting there. Stupid.
Oh, I'll ask you a ton of questions.
Okay. Going live in 3, 2, 1. The title. Add a title. I did. Oh, Hudgens Talk.
Well, yeah, it wants you to give a description and a title. I was just like, isn't that okay?
Okay, it's been titled, but now there it is. So it says preparing. Oh no, it's live.
We are live.
We are again.
All right. Hello, Facebook, or if you're watching this later, hello, YouTube. Hello, Internet. We are back with Hudgens Talks. If you don't know me, my name is Kate Driscoll. I'm the Public Programs Manager for the Hudgens Center for Art and Learning. And today, our guest is usually my co-host, Tyler Nicholson.
Hello, interwebs.
So Ty, for people who are not familiar with you, will you tell them what your job is and what you do at the Hudgens?
Sure. I am the ceramic studio manager at the Hudgens. So I manage the ceramic studio, obviously, and work with the different clay teachers we have, and me, along with my assistants, mix all the glazes, fire all the kilns, fixing the kilns, making studio renovations, basically everything that happens in the studio. Also a lot of building stuff as well.
Yeah, so you kind of wear many hats at the Hudgens.
Yes, mostly this hat.
Mostly that hat.
I'm in the garb of my people, the ceramic studio manager.
Yeah. T-shirt and hat.
T-shirt, hat, and pretty filthy, kind of smelly.
Earbuds, so people think you're really busy.
Yes, and so I cannot hear you speak to me.
Yeah.
Or hear things in the studio.
So if you give people a little bit of an idea of what your professional background is.
Professional background.
Yeah, like past jobs, what you went to school for.
Oh, my past jobs. Well, there are many. I at one time in my life slang cable for DirecTV in Austin, Texas. So as the guy driving around in a van rather, and crawling up on your roof and giving you access to funny car races and HBO. No, but professionally, I went to undergrad, or went to a junior college at Gulf Coast State College in Panama City, Florida. Then I went to my BFA in studio arts at the University of West Florida. And I then graduated from Georgia State University with a master's of fine arts in studio arts and ceramics. So I'm a master of art. Yes.
And then you had a job doing studio managing before this, though, right?
Yeah. I've been kind of pretty heavily involved with the ceramic studio technical part pretty much since Gulf Coast State College. I kind of weaseled my way into helping fix the broken mixer because I grew up on a farm in Southern California. So I've had, I have a pretty heavy mechanical background. And so that led me into being a studio tech at the University of West Florida. And then of course at Georgia State, where I was kind of the resident tech there. And then I've done that job in one form or another at Idlewild Arts, and fixed moonlighting as a kiln repair person when I lived in Santa Fe and in Pensacola. And then I was the ceramic studio manager at Santa Fe Clay in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and a studio manager again at Cherry Lion Studios in Atlanta. And now I'm here.
So what kind of farm did you grow up on?
A dirt farm. We're dirt farmers.
Nice.
Meaning that we didn't have chickens or anything like that. But no, we grew alfalfa, which is what you call hay.
Ah.
Yeah, it's very complicated. No, yeah, my grandparents were cattle ranchers and then switched over to hay, and I think in the 60s or 70s, and then mostly hay and cotton and wheat growing up. So I spent pretty much my entire childhood working on the farm, working a lot of nights, baling hay.
Oh, I've heard that from someone else that grew up on a farm. Like they've mentioned working at night a lot. Well, what's the deal with that? Why do you work at night? Is it just because it's less hot?
Well, where I'm from in Blythe, California, the summer does get up to about 125 degrees here and there, but pretty much averages out at 110, 112. But being that it's the desert, there's no moisture at all. So good alfalfa, good hay likes a lot of leaf. So we need that moisture. So the only time to really do that, to keep the leaf on the stem, is was at night. So now you all know how to farm alfalfa. It's a
welcome to Ty's workshop on farming alfalfa.
Yeah, that'll be my next Zoom class.
I think I would actually sign up for that.
Side note, I'm very allergic to alfalfa too.
Did you find this out? Like, did you develop an allergy later?
No,
or was it just like
grew up sneezing all the time.
Ah, he's sickly.
Yeah.
Do you think that since you did grow up on a farm and you had so much experience, like with the hands-on work, do you think that might be why in part you're drawn to clay, which is such a hands-on material, like you're really working with it?
Absolutely. That's the main reason why I enjoy clay so much, is because it's such a physical material to work with. I've always kind of been a drawer. I grew up just kind of drawing and sketching on stuff like, most people do, but I never really had a very strong bond or connection with that medium. But then when I took a ceramics class in junior college, and once I got over kind of the learning curve that we all go through in ceramics, I really started to enjoy it, and I started to connect with the material because I've had pretty much physical jobs my entire life. Mm-hmm. And so, ceramics is such a wide open art form that there's just so much to know. It's not just all about making a pretty sculpture or a pretty pot. You've got glaze chemistry, you've got all the equipment that comes with it. And then if you own that equipment, can you afford to have somebody come in and fix it, or do you fix it yourself? So me being kind of a tinkerer, I was really drawn to the opportunity to not just be focusing on making pots all the time or sculptures of smoking clowns.
So if we've kind of gone over some of your professional background, will you tell people a little bit about your artistic work and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, growing up on the farm, like I always sketched and did stuff like that. My older brother's a graphic designer and had worked for a major commercial company for a long time. So I think in a lot of ways I started drawing just to kind of like emulate what he was doing. But I never really had like a huge connection to art. I honestly don't think I went to a museum until I was an adult. I thought about like comics and cartoons and stuff like that, but I never thought about art. I couldn't name a painting really. I didn't take art in school until I was a senior in high school. And even still, I never thought about ceramics or clay. That was something that, I knew cups existed. I knew things were ceramic, but I didn't know what that meant. I saw the movie Ghost. I saw that's a thing, a pottery wheel that Demi Moore was on. Yeah, it's good. But it's something I never, ever thought about. And it wasn't until I went to Gulf Coast State College that I paid more than a second glance to it. But was that?
Do you think that you didn't pay a second glance just not knowing about it, or did you kind of know about it and go like, oh no, not for me? Like, did you have preconceived ideas that made you think it wasn't for you, or was it just you just really hadn't thought about ceramics?
Well, definitely, it was like a preconceived notion of what ceramics is. Like, oh, that's what little old people do, and when they make their little pots or whatever. And so I had this kind of like, that's not for me. And then the fact that I, really kind of fell in love with the materials, kind of funny in a lot of ways. I wasn't so ignorant to art that I didn't know what it was. I was an animation major for a little bit after I got out of the Army in 2005. So again, like that is in the sense of being a commercial artist, I guess. But I never really thought about like the community aspect of art or the actual the emotional benefits of being or working in the arts that could bring until later.
So you saw yourself going into like a more commercial line of work with art, like a more like almost like a, I don't think this is actually how it is, I think, but a lot of people think that commercial art is a more practical career path. Like I hear a lot of people saying, I remember getting that advice a lot when I was in school.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just wanted to be an animator because I like cartoons. And then when I started actually animating things and saw the incredible amount of work it takes just to make like 10 seconds worth of a guy walking down the street or a ball bouncing, I was like, I am going to tear my eyes out. I cannot sit still this long. I am too physical. I can't sit behind a computer like this. It's going to drive me bananas. So I definitely got out of that scene for a bit and tried out other college ventures, which I failed at a couple more times until in my late 20s when I went to Gold Coast.
And will you tell people who aren't familiar with your work, what does your work tend to, do you tend to stick to the same subject matter? Do you tend to stick to similar approaches to doing it? What does your work look like for someone who isn't familiar with you?
My work kind of hits on a couple points, I think. Pretty early on when I started to develop a body of work in undergrad, something that you're kind of encouraged to do, to have like a portfolio and a unifying body of work. I started really kind of thinking about a lot of interpersonal things that I was going through at the time. And then also started making a lot of work based off of my experience in the Army. So for a while there, you can get pretty dark with that stuff. So it tended to be a little hard to relate to specific experiences. So what I've been working on for a while is my work is a kind of the anti-monument to like GI Joes and memorials and all these like heroic feats of valor, which are real and have happened in the past. But the monuments that you see are these kind of like singular moments in time that's happened to a very few. Whereas I like to kind of think about the kind of self-destructive nature of what it's like to be a soldier, like whether it be like just drinking until you're projectile vomiting like The Exorcist, or smoking a ton of cigarettes, or getting really, shoddy equipment, or just kind of the weird things that you hear and do as a young person in a really kind of like a fraternity in a lot of ways. But my work looks like, I guess you should say, kind of chaotic surfaces, I guess, that kind of touch on some of my thoughts and feelings of combat and military involvement in the Middle East. I kind of am drawn to dry surfaces, things that have the patina of age, because that, kind of I think about cities in disrepair. And then I also think about a lot equipment that I grew up with, like old tractors and stuff, things that I'm just kind of drawn to. I like the vintageness of our old Massey Ferguson when it was around, and like rusty metal and stuff like that.
No, yeah, I can definitely see why your work would be centered around that, because you joined the Army when you were still a teenager.
Yes. No, well, technically a man, because I was 18, but I was in a man boy. Yeah. I joined the Army in December 2000, so I left for basic training in July 2001. So,
what a time!
What a time! What a good timing for me.
Well, yeah, that's 18-year-olds in our culture are given this thing like, you're 18 now. I think a lot of people, maybe not so much, and younger generations have gotten the thing from your parents where it's like, you're 18, you're making your own way, you're moving out, you're getting a job, and you're an adult. When 6 months before, you were a kid and you don't get a talk back. So there's a weird shift of like, you're 18, grow up and know how to be a grown up, and there's not a lot of room for like, why don't you get it? So that is something I'm not a veteran, but I've thought about that a lot through knowing veterans of, when you're 18 a year ago, you might have gotten yelled at by a teacher.
It's the perfect time to get them, because us males don't really mature, at 18. I think like for everybody, like your frontal lobe doesn't develop until you're like 25. So you're still kind of basically a child. And so I think historically it's easier to mold a younger mind into what you want it to be. So you're saying like 3 months previous of you being 18, you got a curfew, and then all of a sudden you are an adult. You have to register for the draft. If you want to vote, you have to do all these other things.
Well, especially if you're in the military, that's a whole other type of being an adult.
Yeah, I mean, mostly I joined because I didn't want to be stuck in Blythe, a town of, if you're counting the two prisons we have out in the desert, a town of 20,000 people. It's a beautiful place, but it's also, there's not a lot of industry there. Farming is harder and harder to do, especially if you're a smaller farmer. And I knew that if I didn't get out of there, that I was just going to be a massive F up. And so, gain like 60 pounds immediately and just start chugging beers at the river. So I knew I needed to get out and kind of challenge myself. Nobody in my family was in the military. Outside of my granddad was in the Navy in World War II, but like, whose grandparents was in the military during World War II?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So there was no like lineage for me to follow. I think I had a few friends that left high school early so they could join the military, and I was like, well, I'll do it. I ended up being the same job as my recruiter because they showed me a cool video with rockets launching. I was like, I want to do that. And then, I also was raised during, at the end of the kind of Cold War era. So, G.I. Joe was pretty heavy, and there are a lot of toys that feature like military stuff and like super muscular dudes with scars on their faces. And so, you have a lot of pressure as a young person is to be a certain way. And it's, I guess it maybe affected me more. It's like, oh, okay, I need to do this to be like macho or to be a man.
I could see that. I mean, I grew up a girl, so I didn't really feel that way about it. But I could definitely see how, if you identified as a boy, you could really latch onto those symbols of masculinity as a way, a clear path to it. Like, this is okay here. That's how you do it. And they do tell a certain type of story about being in the military. And then, that totally makes sense that you're saying that your work is telling a different story. It's not maybe as romanticized or glamorized as much.
Yeah, and I have a targeted audience. So like, so far, like the people that I make it for and who have seen it, it's, these aren't people that will generally go to art openings, but when they do see it, they're like, I know exactly what you're talking about, because there'll be like some kind of wink implied, like maybe with the title or with something featured on like in a drawing or something like that. Because I don't, my critique in my artwork is not towards the soldier or the sailor or the Marine or anything like that. Those people are, salt of the earth for the most part. It's more about the institution of military engagement and in an unnecessary military engagement too.
Yeah.
Not to get too political.
No, let's dive into it. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's get real hot in there.
Yeah. So did you immediately go back to school when you were finished with the military?
Yeah, I did. And that was a colossal error on my part. I was not ready to be engaged with society. I had a real, as with a lot of people, we have a hard time adjusting, especially if you've been overseas. It takes a lot out of you. And, people are still trying to figure service members out after they came back. Like, why are people going nuts all the time, and why are they, and you're still operating, at least I was operating like I was still in the military. So I'm still, partying hard and being invincible and doing all these things. So I tried to do school right off the bat, but that did not work out for me. And I think my little tiny man baby brain wasn't ready for it.
So at what point in your life were you like, okay, I'm ready? Or did you just kind of reach a point of going, I am ready to go back to school? Or was there just like a moment or some sort of thing that flipped a switch of like, I'm going back to school?
It was actually the birth of my son, Rowdy. So it's when he came along, I was like, I have to stop doing the things that I'm doing because I am going in a really horrible direction, and I need, I need some guidance. I need some help. And, I definitely was able to find that, through creative expression, through making. And I don't consider myself an artist. I don't really like that term. I know we talked about that a few different times with people. Art is not as important to me as the act of making things or doing something with my hands. Like whether it be making a little shitty plywood box or tinkering on a kiln or just making a random pot on the wheel. Like I enjoy the act of making things. And it's something I need to kind of focus my mind. Yeah.
So would you refer to yourself more as a maker than an artist? Or, I mean, you don't really like titles, but they'll be assigned to you. So like if you had to be assigned one, is that something that's more comfortable for you, or you just kind of leave it out?
I feel like maker's getting kind of weird too. And if I've been pressed, I'll say that about myself, is that I'm a maker. I make things.
You're right though. Like I've heard it in different industries too, of like creative industries. Like I'm friends with some people who work in tattoos, and that's like a big thing there of, are you a tattooist? Are you a tattooer? Tattoo artist seems to be kind of shunned in certain circles. But so I've heard it there too. I've just been like, I don't like tattoo artists.
That might be a weird, like, kind of, I don't know what stage of the millennial lineage I fall on, but that might be one of those weird quirks from my generation. Is like, you can't label me, man.
Don't give me a label.
Don't give me a label, Mom.
Speaking of which, when you were saying how you came back and you're having trouble, getting back into school after being in the military, I wonder if it's hard for professionals working with veterans, especially if they aren't a veteran, dealing with different generations. Like if you've been doing therapy with veterans for like 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's hard, I mean, just generationally, but what the actual different, what's happening in the military at the time. I wonder if that affects things, or if it's a general thing for those professionals helping veterans.
Yeah, I mean, we've been actively engaged in a war zone since 2001. So that's almost 20 years. So it's like we have people that are born now, they're going into the military, and all they've ever known is war. A time in when their country is involved in war. We had the Gulf War when I was a kid, and it was like, that was, by comparison, that was like a video game. It's like, because that was the war of the video game. That's when we could watch it live on TV. Everything was done through the use of like infrared cameras and all this other stuff. So it just seemed so simple. So when we waltzed into Afghanistan and Iraq, and then we started fighting these asymmetrical wars, we started realizing, oh, this is not as easy as we'd liked it to be. Because we're still a Cold War army. We were developed to fight the Russians.
Oh, I guess I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, I'm sure it is difficult for people to deal with. Some of us, I don't want to give anybody like a bad name or anything. I personally speaking, I will say that I was difficult to deal with, and probably still am on occasion. But
yeah, I was thinking, like, if you got like he's a nightmare. No,
so annoying.
Ty's really easy to work with, and I would say like anyone who knows you or who's worked with you will attest to that. But yeah, I was thinking about how if you were a therapist and you'd worked with veterans and starting in like the 80s, maybe you worked for 30 years, I wonder how that would change and like the people you're seeing, or if it would be the same issues just in a different outfit.
Well, and we had Michael Aschenbrenner on last week, and a few episodes back we had Aaron Toole, and we all were in different wars. Michael's in Vietnam, Aaron was in the Gulf War, and I was in Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom. There's generations between us, but we all still have very, very similar personalities and quirks and senses of humor, and actually object making preferences too. I think we all kind of share this kind of chaotic surface decoration and all these other things. So even though there's generational differences between us, I think there's many, many similarities that kind of bring us together, because we can all commiserate about the same stuff. Because while the wars may change, the soldiers don't. They're always 18-year-old kids or so. And
that is something that Michael Aschenbrenner brought up last week, and he actually said something we were just talking about. He was saying like you couldn't get a 27-year-old to enlist the way you could get 18-year-olds too. And I was thinking,
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure there are 27-year-olds who would want to get involved in it, but yeah, like as a group, I'm sure that it's a lot easier to sell that to a teenager.
It is because you're young. I mean, and you're under the spell. And again, the military is a really great thing. It's a necessary thing, but it's like, I think there's a lot, you have to sell the myth a little bit to get people to join, because the recruiting videos are a lot different than real life. And let me tell you.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of although the military is different from most other things, but I think it's similar with a lot of industries, like teachers, I think, are sold a myth of what it is to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Nurses are sold, these jobs where it's like a self-sacrificing type of job.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a lot of, there's like a story around it. And then I've heard from people who get into it, like, this is not what I thought I was signing up for.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, to have, like, with everything, and like, if your whole goal in life was to be a cobbler, and you get into the cobbler industry, and you go like, yeah, this is pretty much where I wanted to be. Yeah, this is exactly how I imagined it.
Yeah, not as many elves helping you at night, though.
Was Geppetto a cobbler, or was he a toy maker?
I think he was a toy maker because he made his son, which I'm like, you made your son, and you in a way he could never grow up.
I guess he doesn't want to have freedom.
He's like, you can never leave. Yeah. You have to stay.
You always have to make grilled cheeses forever.
So you've also worked in academia,
yes.
Work being professor.
Yes, and that's the only reason I went to graduate school is so I could teach in the college level. I've wanted to be a teacher for a long time, and that's one of the many things I love about working at the Hudgens is because I still have the opportunity to teach. So I teach here at the studio, teaching a hand building class, a wheel class, and a teen illustration and drawing class, which is fun because I generally don't get to work with younger kids or teenagers that much. I've done so in the past at Idlewild Arts and other art community places. But yeah, I started off as an instructor of record at Georgia State, which is one of the awesome benefits of going to school there because you can teach and you're the instructor of record. So when you get out, you have a very nice teaching kind of background. And so, but for the last almost 2 years, I've been a part-time instructor there, teaching 3D design and hand building and independent study. This last one.
Are there things about working in the university that you feel like could be improved or make it easier for those working in it?
Oh, it was like, as far as instructors go? I want to continue teaching in academia.
Well, or like, is there, or you could, if you don't want to get into that, we could talk about, like, is there a way you think teaching for the students could be better? Like,
it's rough for students. And we've known this for a while. Like, gone are the days where you can get a part-time job at McDonald's and pay for your education because the wages haven't changed since, your mom went to school in the 70s and you could work at McDonald's and, pay for your tuition. I've repeatedly I would say 70% of my students are full-time at a place and taking a full course load. And, we are pushing them to get the most out of their education, especially if they're art majors. My philosophy on that is like, you're going into some risky territory. You want to do the most you can to be the best you can when you get out of here. So, especially if you want to be a commercial artist or do anything, like, make the most of this time. I would love to see tuition prices go down dramatically, but they just continue to go up and up for students.
That's true.
And my students are I
went to Georgia State.
Yeah,
and I loved it. But yeah, Georgia State, I don't know if it doesn't seem like it's like this for other schools. I picked Georgia State because I liked that it was in a city, and I liked the setting. I liked the student body. I spent some time there, and it just seemed like a good fit for me. And I like the programs they offered. But yeah, I would say almost everyone I knew at Georgia State at least worked part-time. And my other students, my fellow students, were at least part-time, if not full-time. And you are kind of torn as a student because, your professors do say, hey, like, come in extra time, do this, do that. And they're great opportunities you want to take, but you're just like, I also have to work 30-something hours at my job so I can pay to go here. So these great opportunities where it's like, I could come in and see you at office hours. Like, you may not actually be able to physically be there. And you don't want to say that to your professor because you're like, oh, they've heard it a million times.
Yeah. It's always like, yeah, you're lying.
Yeah.
Everybody's always lying to you, but I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of burnout you get. I don't know, burnout, but like you just kind of get immune to excuses.
Sure. And I think most students, and students who take school seriously, know that professors feel that way. And so you don't. I was actually shocked. I would never even tell professors like, hey, can I turn something in late? Or can I talk about this? I never asked once. Even when, like, I had a big life event happen in college, and I wasn't able to do an online quiz. And a French professor I was not close with, like, why didn't you take this quiz? You take stuff so seriously. And I was like, oh, I had this thing happen. And she was like, oh, I'll just reset the time so you can take it. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, you can do that? Okay. I actually felt like guilty when she was doing that for me. She's like, oh my God. This woman's, yes, and professors have a ton of work on their plate.
Oh, for sure. Even as a part-time instructor, it's just like the amount of time you spend just creating lessons and grading is, pretty intense. But my wife is a middle school teacher and she has like 200 students. So I have no right to complain about grading or anything really, because at least I'm dealing with adults that I can kind of talk to them on an adult level for the most part. But that's what's really nice about being here at the Hudgens and teaching in community art centers, because it's a different learning outcome. People aren't really here for a grade. They don't, they're here to learn something. And people in academia are there to learn something too. But I think people are here for kind of just the love of the community and the love of wanting to make something and just learn a new skill. And so
right.
They're a little more open to learning experiences, and they feel like, I think they accept challenges a little bit more freely. Whereas it's like, and they're not as concerned with the outcome as much, because like if it doesn't come out, it's not like you failed the class you paid for. It's like, oh, just make another one.
And in school, they're always saying, hey, take chances. It's all about learning. But you do have to take tests, and it is pass or fail. So to an extent, you can only do that so much, where you're just like, I've got to manage my time. I've got to blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, that is the great thing about being at the Hudgens. Everyone, and I'd say about the staff too, everyone really wants to be there. Students are taking time out of their life to be there. The board members are taking time out of their lives and their jobs to come help out with Hudgens, the volunteers. No one's there because they're forced to be there. So it's a cool place to be in that regard.
And then this is one of the many reasons why I like ceramics. It's because it's such a communal based material, because not everybody has a wheel, not everybody has a kiln or access to all these different materials. So it does take a place where people can meet up and use those things collectively. And that, of course, leads to conversations between people and developing friendships between people that you may not have buddied up with before. And so in a lot of ways, it's kind of like your own little unit of people, like your own platoon.
Yeah.
Like there's people from all walks of life coming into this one area and being, in a way, kind of forced to sit on a wheel next to each other, or like be in the same class, and making some pretty lifelong friends. And people are really willing to share information in art centers, and that's nice. Where I feel like in a lot of aspects in life, people are kind of hold on to their information like Gollum in the ring, but here everybody's like, pretty open and like wants you to succeed as well. It's not as competitive.
Right. Yeah, it's not a cutthroat environment. It's like it's an environment for growth. And yes. I think artists are like that there as well. Like from what I've seen people exhibiting, I have not experienced the attitude of an artist seeing another artist's exhibition. Like if they're in different spaces at the same time, I really haven't seen artists saying stuff like, oh, they've got a better space, or like did they get more people at their exhibition? They're always really into it, and they're like wanting to see what they did. Like, this is really cool. Or they're excited to hear about people exhibiting at the same time. Like, oh, that'll be a really cool thing to be happening.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty rare that art centers like have like full on like knife fights with each other, like West Side Story or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's like, yeah, that art center, that Johns Creek, you know, them guys.
Yeah, I think that's true of art centers. They all seem to be pretty, like we've had some back and forth with people from the Quinlan. They've helped us talking about education, and we've helped them talking about different, different tech and tools that we use.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, yeah, art centers do cooperate really well with each other. So it's like we all win by one person winning type of deal.
Yeah, and I feel like this is way off topic, but I feel like I'm very fortunate for a multitude of reasons, but to be able to work in a business that's focused on creation rather than destruction, and growth. And I think that's something very healing for many people, myself included. And also, I think it's very healing for the community to have access to a place like the Hudgens.
Let's see, we've got some questions for you in the chat. I'm gonna go to the top so I don't miss anybody. Debbie Dan says, hey guys.
What's up, Debbie? Hi, Debbie.
She's great, she always watches. And Ashley Lynch is watching. Ashley always watches, says go Panthers. Kristen L. Griffin says Ty is the best, and she says, hey Kate. Hi Kristen.
Oh, thanks, Kristen.
And Debbie asked if we were on time. I'm assuming she means getting on time on Facebook.
Are you on time?
Mark Knott says, let's go, Ty. And Mark Knott also said, I had the most amazing summer last summer with Ty and Michael Aschenbrenner at the LH Project.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys were talking about that last week.
We were. That was it's such a special place. The LH Project is a artist residency in Oregon. And I know I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to mention it again. I'm really honored to have been invited there twice now to go take place in the veteran artist session that Jacob Hoslocker, I always mess up his last name, has in the summer. And that's allowed me to meet Michael Aschenbrenner and Aaron Toole, and then of course more recently Mark Knott, and to be kind of surrounded by these kind of powerhouses in our craft areas, something really honored. It makes me feel very honored. And it's just such a great place to be. It's nestled away in the mountains, and it's just you in the studio, and there's nothing out there. It's just, grassland and studio time. And that is something, as we're all working people, it's really hard to come by in that much focus time. And it helps you as a professional to kind of work through some creative things you might be going through. Mm-hmm. And then, with the veteran artist residency, it's great because it brings veterans together to, whatever, to make work, to talk about stuff, to not talk about stuff, just to have fellowship and community. And that is something that we are getting ready to launch here at the Hudgens. Nice segue, Ty. We're under our Healing Arts program. We're launching a veteran artist workshop that we're focusing on this first session on writing, and it will be free to veterans, and it will be facilitated by a art writer, counselor type person. So there's not like a really specific person, but somebody that can facilitate and has worked with veteran before in a creative manner. We could always use more funding. And so if you see our donate button here in the chat, or on the description rather, please consider donating, and we're always open to donations anytime. And you can find that on the webpage as well. But it's something I'm super sorry, Kate. It's something I'm really excited about, and it's something I've been trying to get off the ground for many years. It's been a real goal of mine to find other veterans out there that are in need of some fellowship and some healing through community and creativity.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm really happy that you joined the team, because you've been here. Is it a year and a half or 2 years?
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. I think you've brought such a good perspective to the Hudgens, because I don't want to speak for past years because I've only been there for about 3 years, but like, you know, focusing on veterans was just something that we weren't doing at the time, and not because we didn't want to be. You know, it's a question of manpower. We're a small nonprofit with a small staff, but it's a really important population, and everyone knows at least one veteran. So it's like there's definitely a community out there that needs something like that.
Yeah, and you know, we're not the most, and I say we like I can assign emotions and feelings to other people, but the collective we, the hive, we're not that open with our feelings as I think people in general, and in particular people that have been taught to struggle and taught to overcome struggles, and some things you need help with. Some things you can't just overcome by not talking about it and or not dealing with it, because that turns into stress, and that stress will eventually kill you. And it's something we need to work on, and that I think it's going to be a really great thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't introduce myself like, oh, I'm a veteran, you know, because that's, you know, I'm me and everyone else. I mean, millions of other people. So it's like I just happen to be in a position here that I can at least do a little good.
Yeah.
On top of the massive amounts of good I already do.
Yeah. So I mean, really, you're kind of above and beyond right now.
Really.
No, that is actually true. Like I am joking, but and this whole format is a little bit funny because I'm asking Ty questions, and a lot of things he and I have already talked about. But so I'm talking to him almost like I would talk to a stranger.
Yeah, you're much better at talking to people than I like to, like I said, hide with my earphones in the kiln.
That's not true at all. You do great on these. You do well on these talks. But yeah, I think anyone that's worked with you knows you're a great person to work with.
Oh, thank you.
You work really hard. You've got really like outside of the box ideas. Like you'll think of stuff that I'm like, oh, that wouldn't even occurred to me. So no, we all are so happy you're on our team.
Well, not to sit around and congratulate each other, but you know, we do have a really great team here at the Hudgens. You know, the board is you know, super hardworking on our behalf and on the behalf of the community.
Right.
It's always when I say community, I'm like, I don't live here, but I live in the United States and in Georgia.
We spend 40 plus hours of our week in Gwinnett. So yeah, even though I did live in Gwinnett at one time, I don't now. I live about half an hour north in Gainesville, but I still do kind of consider myself being part of the Gwinnett community because we live there. We eat at restaurants there. We spend a lot of our time. I just say we live there, but we work there.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of money
at
Cafe Rake.
And, I know. Me too. I think Cafe Rake's seen a lot of my dollars. I need to just start paying them like a set amount a month.
But you know, I think the staff we have is pretty stellar, and the staff we have had in the past has also been really great too. But, you know, we're really fortunate in having Laura on board now, and then having you know, Connie kind of keeping education.
Connie is our rock.
Cat herd. They were like herding cats, because there's a lot of different things happening all at once, and Connie does a really excellent job at it. And of course, you doing all the great things in the gallery and coordinating.
All the great things.
And we already talked about me.
LaDonna wanted to tell you that she says, I'm glad you found your way out of life and found your way through your military experience. Your work is an important expression of awareness of the cost individuals pay while serving a society that sometimes fails to understand the cost. This is a great question, because I thought about this too. LaDonna wants to know, can you speak to the color palette you tend to use?
Wow. Well, first off, thank you, LaDonna. I love having LaDonna here in the studio, and
Me
also,
too.
well, virtually in the studio at the moment. And then also she has taken, quite a few classes with me. So it's always great to have her in there. She's so smart, and she always has like the best phrases and like grasp of history. So it's always a pleasure talking to her. But thank you, LaDonna. The color palette I use, I am a person that can hem and haw myself to death when I'm trying to figure out color for any type of sculpture or cup that I'm making. I draw in black and white. I often dream in black and white. So like I don't think about color really well, and I'm actually admittedly really bad at making and mixing colors. So like, like, oh, this color and this color makes green or whatever. I don't even see. I don't even know if that's right.
You call yourself an art professor.
I'm bad. My wife, when we were in grad school together, I vividly remember her making fun of me because I was like couldn't mix colors. I didn't know which colors to use. And so it's hard for me to think about color. So what I do often is I'll limit myself to a couple, like 3 or 4 different colors on something, and then that's all I get to choose. And that's it. Because otherwise I'll just sit there and overthink it. And then by limiting myself and working quickly, I become less afraid to approach the piece or alter the piece and make mistakes because, well, there's a
yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm less afraid of mistakes because, I've only got this certain amount of colors to work with, and I'm only allowing myself a certain amount of time to make to make changes on the piece itself. That was funny. There was total cat butt in the way.
Yeah, I swear she does not pay attention to me until I start Zooming with somebody.
I feel like the cat butt is a view that most cat owners get real familiar with real quick.
Oh yeah, and you love it. You start to love that little round butt.
Yeah. So, and I'll use earthy tones too, because again, like talking about the textures and things I'm drawn to is like, I'll use colors that kind of correlate with that. And then also sometimes fairly patriotic-ish colors. And I have other little things that I will keep private to myself.
Do you like go through phases when using colors? Like you're really into this, or does it depend on the thing you're working on?
Recently, I've been using a little lighter in color, like lighter colors that aren't so saturated. And so that's new for me. In the past, I think every color really stood out on its own. They didn't really complement each other that well. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know why I use the colors I use. That's all that stuff I said was the stuff I learned in graduate school to like lie about what I'm making.
No, it's not. Guys, just forget everything. Well, oh dang, okay, we've already been doing this for over 50 minutes. So I guess we'll wrap it up, let you get back to your real life. Let you go home to Rachel.
I have to teach.
Who for anyone who doesn't know, that's Ty's wife, who's also a really talented sculptor.
Yeah, and incredible teacher and all around.
Great person.
Good person. She chose wisely.
Rachel, I said great. Did you hear that?
Yeah. But thanks, guys, and thanks everybody for continuously being part of the Hudgens and keeping our community strong. And thanks for sticking with us while we navigate all of this, and as we slowly start to creak open our doors a little bit at a time. We're doing this in a very measured way to keep everyone safe and healthy, and we want to do this right. So thank you all for your patience.
All right. Hopefully we will see you guys. Well, we'll see you guys next week as usual, Thursdays at 5. I don't think we'll try to leave the cat out of it.
We should interview our pets, like just make our pets in front of the camera next time. Scout.
What color palette do you use?
Scout, acknowledge me.
Never. All right, guys, we'll see you next Thursday at 5, and hopefully we will see you in real life very soon. Oh, galleries are now open by appointment. You can email me at kdriscoll@thehudgens.org to come see the shows.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye, guys. Bye, Facebook.
Goodbye. And YouTube.